The Michael Bay Transformers films are dumb, fun action films. But Transformers as a franchise deserves better for this being the mainstream idea of Transformers. So let me, as a big Transformers nerd, tell you how I would do it better. This is another take on Transformers 2007. The film begins basically the same, with the monologue about the Cosmic Cube and the attack on the military base, but instead of it being Blackout, it's Soundwave. To bring a significant Transformer into the film already, plus Blackout in the original film literally causes EMPs, which is kind of Soundwave's thing. Either way, he steals some information, he lets Ravage, not Scorponok, go to continue the assault on the base. He scans an F-117 Nighthawk and flies out. Then we cut to Spike Witwicky, because why give him the last name of the G1 character if we're not going to do the full reference? Either way, the same principle of the scene is the same, with him talking about his ancestor Archibald and trying to pawn off his stuff because he's kind of broke. His father Sparkplug picks him up. He owns a salvage yard, which is the polite way of saying junkyard. And because Spike's been doing so well in school, he lets him pick out a new car at the used car lot and he'll help pay for it.
Wow, I'm getting my very own car!
As long as it costs $100 or less.
Cars cost more than that.
Well, this one doesn't.
He finds an old yellow rusty Beetle. Sam's not super happy that he's got this POS, but something the card picks the driver, and it's the only thing he can afford, so he puts up with it. Meanwhile, Secretary of Defense John Voight is talking to the Pentagon. They don't know who attacked the base in Qatar, but they picked up this weird sound from there. And instead of being some random nonsense, it's the Transformer sound effect. Back with Spike, he's doing some car maintenance, and he notices the quite impressive engine. Sparkplug noting, ain't that something? This thing's more than meets the eye. Cutting the Soundwave, dropping off Frenzy on Air Force One, who sneaks in, steals a bunch of information about something called Iceman, and how Spike's ancestor might be connected. He only gets part of it before they find out he's there, but Frenzy manages to sneak off without anyone dying. He meets up with Barricade, and they send the message to Soundwave. Soundwave manages to find a lead to the glasses, which might have the location to the Allspark on them, as well as possibly Megatron. So Barricade heads out to that location with Frenzy, just as another jet flies up the Soundwave, and transform, it's Starscream. Where Starscream reminds him that their main goal is to find the Allspark, and Megatron is long gone, and how Soundwave needs to stop wasting so much time looking for Megs, and how Starscream's the Lord of the Decepticons and demands they focus. With Soundwave replying that no matter what, he'll find either or die trying.
For your sake, I hope not.
Transforms and flies off. Meanwhile, the survivors of the base get attacked by Ravage, and ultimately it's kind of the same scene with Scorponok in the original. And here we're really introduced to the Rangers. But either way, Ravage loses a part of his tail and escapes. Meanwhile, that night, Spike wakes up hearing his car running. The Witwicky family chases into the salvage yard, where they see it transform into a giant yellow robot, and then send a radio signal calling all Autobots to rendezvous at his point. We cut to a bunch of cars driving. Getting back to the military, they're inspecting the part of Ravage, and they notice they can definitely dent it up, but it's really hard to kill it. Back at the Witwicky, Spike gets comically knocked on his butt by a police car. The family's just kind of hysteric and yelling at the driver because they don't know what's going on, just for the driver to digitally disappear and transform into another robot, and yells about where the glasses are. Bumblebee jumps in and fights off Barricade. And of course I have to say this, that the action needs to be pulled back and they actually have to have weight to them and not that many sparks. Either way, Frenzy disguises himself as Spike's mom's phone and hitches a ride as they all escape. Everyone's confused and screaming and scared, and Bumblebee tries using the radio to speak and tell them that their name is Bumblebee. And then Judy comedically says something like, "Well, I guess the car is not such a POS now, is it, Spike?" And then right after, Bumblebee takes a new car form of a brand new Camaro as a way not to get tracked by Barricade. Meanwhile, two hackers, Carly and Chip, discover the same sound effect that the government found. Bumblebee and the Witwickies make it into an alleyway where more cars show up, and we meet the Autobots. Everyone's all amazed and whatnot, and Optimus introduces them. Optimus Prime, their leader, First Lieutenant Jazz, weapons expert Ironhide and Arcee, Medic Ratchet, Scout Bumblebee. Spike's really confused how Bumblebee has to use radio but everyone else can talk normally, which makes Bumblebee sad, and Ratchet explains that when they first landed on the planet, they got into a nasty fight with some Decepticons who ripped out his voice box. Spike's sorry for asking, but also is completely confused that, like, what? Decepticons came to the planet? What? So Optimus gives some exposition with some holograms. Where long ago, Cybertron was their home planet, but an evil force of evildoers led by Megatron ruined it all, causing a big war, which ruined the planet. But we had to note that Optimus was the one who shot out the Allspark into deep space, so Megatron couldn't get his hands on it. Unfortunately, because of this, Cybertron died without a power source, and the only new Transformers created were soulless drones, without Allsparks giving them souls. Eventually, the Autobots had to flee the planet, and a great diaspora sent out into the galaxy to look for the cube. And the reason why Spike's ancestor is so important is because his glasses have some Cybertronian writing on them, which Bumblebee found on eBay, which they suspect might be where the location of the Allspark is. The parents are still kind of confused about this, but either way, they haul back to the house to look for the glasses. Spike goes upstairs to look for them, and there's some awkward conversations with the parents trying to understand the robots, asking like what kind of music they like, which Jazz says, well, isn't that obvious? And he starts blaring some like Chick Corea or whatever and start dancing, which really annoys Ratchet and Optimus because he's making a lot of noise, which alerts the neighbors and they comically have to hide. And Ironhide's like, why don't we just shoot them? Those punks feel lucky. Sparkplug's like, yeah, shoot them, they're annoying. And Judy's like, no, don't shoot the neighbors. And Optimus agrees they shouldn't do that. And just as Spike finds the glasses, the government shows up and Sector 7 arrests them. The Autobots save them and scare them to drop their guns instead of Jazz using some weird magnet thing he never uses in the rest of the film. Skipping over to Peen scene, and Bumblebee gets captured. Frenzy takes this opportunity to sneak away with the agents. Chip and Carly get arrested, and all the human characters meet up at Hoover Dam. The Autobots debate should they rescue the humans and Bumblebee. They already have the glasses. Optimus laments shooting the Allspark into deep space, sending their war to another planet, and freedom's the right of all sentient beings. And humans shouldn't have to pay for their mistakes. But he decodes the glasses, and conveniently, they're all at the Hoover Dam.
Autobots, transform and roll out.
Rangers turn on Sector 7 and force them to release Bumblebee, and they do. And they also show them the Allspark that's been in the Hoover Dam, and they explain that they discovered it along with Iceman here, which Bumblebee recognizes as Megatron, and how the Witwicky Explorer guy discovered both of them forever ago. And they've been trying to study both of them, but they don't really know anything about what they're doing with it, because they're so advanced. Bumblebee touches the Allspark and it shrinks down because plot, and it also fixes his voice. Frenzy sees Megatron and sneaks off. The Autobots show up, and the plan is they're going to move the Allspark to a more secure area called Base Metroplex, where the Autobots can hide out until they find a way to send them home. And the convoy begins. Meanwhile, Frenzy sends their location and what's going on at the Hoover Dam to Soundwave, who sends out a mass message to the Decepticons, telling them that Megatron lives and he's at the Hoover Dam. Cutting to Starscream on the Nemesis 2, he's mad that Soundwave has defied his orders and looked for Megatron, and demands that everyone focus on retrieving the Allspark, just for a larger Decepticon Lugnut to call him mad. Their glorious leader Megatron is alive. All hail Megatron! As Frenzy awakens Megatron and gets shot by the agents, a detachment of Decepticons heads to the Hoover Dam, chanting all hail Megatron, ignoring Starscream, and he reluctantly says, all hail Megatron. And he heads out with them. Optimus hears over the intercom that Iceman awakens, which he knows is Megatron, so he turns around and heads back to the dam, putting Jazz in command. A bunch of different Decepticons meet up at the Hoover Dam, and they're ecstatic that Megatron's back, except for Starscream. Just for Optimus to arrive, and Megatron sends the rest of the gang out to go get the cube. Megatron flies up to Optimus and is all like, it's been a long time, Prime. And then we get a direct tribute to G1, and they have like a mace and an axe, and they fight on the dam. Just for it to burst, and Optimus gets washed away as Megatron flies off. At the convoy, they're trying to drive outside the town so no one notices them or gets in the way, just for the Decepticons to show up and chase them into the city. There's a lot of destruction and explosions, and we're trying to have it be noticeable and zoomed out so we can see what's going on. Lynx charges Bumblebee, the hackers, and Spike to escape with the cube and make it to the helipad. They evac out, but Spike is kind of freaking out. But Bumblebee, instead of Linux, gives him the pep talk to go through with all this, and Linux promises that he'll keep his parents safe. The Autobots and the Rangers are actually doing pretty decent, defending against the Decepticons, being able to take out at least a couple of Viacons and one normal Decepticon, and some significant damage to a couple others. But then Megatron shows up and wrecks house. Thinking that Jazz has the cube, he rips him in half. Just as Optimus shows up, he challenges Megatron to a rematch. By the end of this day, one shall stand and one shall fall. And they have a rematch, and they go through a building, and there's some fighting, and there's some chasing with Spike, the hackers, and some of the Decepticons, until they make it to a helipad. And just as Spike tries passing the cube to the Air Force guys, Starscream arrives and blows up the helicopters. B tells the humans to hide in the wreckage, and he fights Starscream. He does a decent job fighting him until Megatron shows up and blows off his legs. Megatron almost kills B until Spike comes out with the cube. And he tries negotiating B's life for the cube, which impresses Megatron because he thought that the humans were just animals. But Starscream's disgusted that the human's touching the cube and tries blasting at him, which sends him flying off the building. Megatron backhands Starscream off the building, saying he's an idiot. Bumblebee, instead of Optimus, catches them and breaks their fall. Megatron jumps down with them. Megatron flicks Chip away, breaking his legs, against the car. He takes the cube from Spike, and he starts gloating that he won, finally. A defeated Optimus sees this and knows what to do. And he aims his blaster and destroys the cube. Megatron, confused and handless, is like, "You damned us all!" And he transforms and flies away as the Decepticons retreat. And yes, Megatron gets to live in this one because killing him off in every film and bringing him back is stupid. But Optimus is more concerned about the humans, and Spike's confused why he did it, and Optimus says that sometimes you have to make grave decisions for the greater good. He's sad to find Jazz. The conversation here is the same, which leads into him explaining Cybertronian funeral rites, where Jazz will be recycled with honor and what's left gets melted down. And to never forget him, they will plant a Cybertronian remembrance flower, along with an icon of Megatron to never forget what they done. And during this, they also have a funeral for the Rangers who died during the film. Keller returns after all this and informs the Autobots that everyone kind of knows they exist now. Optimus assures them that no matter what, he'll protect the planet from the Decepticons. Even if they weren't stuck here, he's got a duty to protect all life. Keller agrees to vouch for the Autobots and gives them base Metroplex to hide out in. And Sparkplug notes, "Hey, I know some friends who can also help the Autobots." He whips out his wallet and there's a little card with a familiar eagle symbol. Keller smiles and shakes his hand, saying, "That will help." And the two then shake Optimus's finger. And so Sector 7 is disbanded and reformed into the international group NEST, granting the Autobots safe haven for protection from the Decepticons. And speaking of on the Nemesis 2, Starscream leads Megatron into a dark room with a mysterious, sickly old bot, and he demands Starscream to leave. But Starscream says that he's still second in command, but the old bot uses some telepathy to cause massive pain to Starscream and tosses him out the door. Megatron and the bot have a similar conversation to Megatron and the Fallen from the second film, where it's noted that this old bot's the real one pulling the strings for the Decepticons. And he notes that the Allspark can be remade via the Matrix, which is somewhere on that wretched planet. Long ago, the primes I used to call my brothers betrayed me on, setting up Revenge of the Fallen. Meanwhile, the Witwickies are having a joyride with Bumblebee. Spike asks his dad what was that thing they showed Keller, and Sparkplug merely says, let's just say back in the 80s, I helped repair tanks for the military. And some other repairs, but mostly tanks. Well, it wasn't really the military, but we'll tell you when you're older. And the film ends exactly like the original film, with Optimus sending out a message, saying that the cube's gone, but he's summoning all Autobots to come to Earth. And the credits play over a Linkin Park cover of the Transformers theme. And that's my ideas how I would improve Transformers 2007. But what do you guys think? You like how it turned out? Do you not? You have your own ideas? Do you hate mine? How would have you done it different? Let me know in the comments below.